I was just notified the doors will be open, so everybody will be able to get in here this evening. So that's good news. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here tonight, by the way. Yeah, it's great to have so many faces back. And again, we are starting to do this on a frequent basis again. Every third Wednesday will be our live event here in the Dallas office. Just to remind you again, too, the first is always in Houston. Second week is always Austin. And you get the best at the last. So anyway, thank you for coming. My name is Steve. I'm the manager here in the office and the IRA specialist here. And want to welcome you to a great evening we have planned for our self-directed IRA social. We have one of our good friends, Eric Mattingly from DMI, who's going to be talking a bit about the state of affairs as it pertains to multifamily investing. And he'll have a couple of interesting things to share, as he always does. But before we get started with that, we're going to give you the little Quest overview real quick. Just by a show of hands, I've talked to a couple of you. Some of you are new here. Can I just get a sense who is here for the first time? Okay, good. Oh, that's a good mix. Great. Anyway, I'll be brief on this, but I'll talk a little bit about who we are first. Quest Trust Company is the largest self-directed IRA custodian in the state of Texas, and we are one of the biggest in the country. We have currently about 20,000 investors nationwide, and we specialize in the area of real estate. We offer you the ability to invest in real estate itself through your IRA, or real estate in the way of private entities, which could be LLCs, multifamily, and also private lending. But the thing that really distinguishes Quest from all the other companies that are out there, I believe, is the networking and the education that we provide, such as events like we are doing tonight. And of course, we have service that I think can't be beaten. It's 24 to 48 hour turnaround time on any and all types of transactions, from opening your account to funding your investment to getting a check paid, etc. So just to give an overview, a little bit about what a self-directed IRA is. First of all, let me just right off the bat say there's no difference between a self-directed IRA and an IRA you're going to find anywhere else. Self-directed is purely a marketing term. So there's really no distinction. IRAs are IRAs are IRAs. The reason they use the term self-directed is to make the distinction that what you're working with here is a private asset. So it is something of your choosing. You could look at this definition of a self-directed IRA. Okay, every IRA is going to give you the ability to diversify. You're going to get tax savings. You're going to invest in the things you know best, no matter where you go. But the distinction and why there is that difference is that in a self-directed IRA, you're the one who picks the asset. You're the one who goes out and says, I want to invest in Eric's deal, or I want to invest in this property. I want to find this property for senior living or Airbnb or whatever the case may be. So you're the one who's going out, finding it. You've done the due diligence. You've done the homework. You're the one who really knows this investment better than some fund manager that you can turn your money over to at Fidelity or Vanguard, and they invest or they choose what to put your money into. Now, there's another bullet point up there, which I also do want to touch on, because I think, there's this thing we call social investing. And in that broader context, it means, that you're investing in responsible companies. You're investing in companies where they want to do things to reduce their carbon footprint or things of that nature. We've all heard of that, and it's important. I absolutely would agree with that. But I would argue that a self-directed IRA in many ways gives you the ability to invest in a way where you make a bigger impact in your community than anything else you could choose. Think about it for a second. If I'm taking my IRA and I'm going to invest in a property that I want to turn around and flip or rent out or something like that, that means I'm buying something that's the eyesore in the neighborhood, right? I'm taking my money, now I'm putting it into it, I'm bringing it up, I'm going to sell it for a profit, yes, but what have I done along the way? I've hired somebody to do the work, so that's helping the local economy. I'm buying and sourcing materials locally, that's helping the economy on a local level. Even if I were, say, lending the money, somebody else is going and doing the same thing. Or if I'm doing a multifamily deal, again, somebody else is doing the same thing. I'm just doing it in a different form. So I would say that in a truer, realer way, you have more impact on your community investing through that self-directed IRA potentially than just about anything else you can think of that comes under that category of social investing. Now, as I mentioned before, some of the things that really make us different with regard to Quest as opposed to other companies out there is the education that we provide. So it's events like this. It's going to be ongoing things, not only that we do here in the office, we do webinars on an ongoing basis. We have all kinds of virtual and live networking opportunities that we offer. We have continued to do what we call our virtual happy hour. This is something we started up in the COVID era when we couldn't do this, but it became so popular that we've kept it as well. So that is the fourth Wednesday, just to make it confusing. Everything is Tuesdays. This one is the fourth Wednesday though. But that's something we continue to do. And it's people from around the country. And it's kind of like a glorified deal pitching session, but it's a way that you get to a broader audience. But you can also find everything that we do archived on either our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. And we're actually live tonight on YouTube, as a matter of fact. And if you want to go catch me afterwards and see how I did, you can catch me right after we're done. So I welcome all comments because I know they're going to be great, right? Especially to hear good things about the things we serve tonight. We really took pride in our event tonight. So I hope it shows. Anyway, an ongoing thing that we do here as well is we reward clients who bring us new clients. We want it to be a great experience for everybody. There's a referral program. So those of you who are clients, if you refer us a new client, that is a benefit to you and them. There will be a bonus that they get a discount on their account opening fee, and there's a credit that goes to you. And for the remainder of the month, I might point out, we're actually doubling that. It's usually $25. Now we're doing $50 till the end of September. So again, it always pays to have friends, and friends who invest together, you know, they are the best friends of all, right? All right. We're also doing another promotion right now where for that one account opening fee, you can open as many accounts as you like. This is an overlooked technique that a lot of people, I don't think, take advantage of. First of all, you might have an account that you want to open, but maybe you want to open one for your spouse as well. Maybe you have a health savings account that you also want to add into the mix, or an education savings account for your child or your grandchild, or a Roth IRA that you're setting up for your child or your grandchild. I've seen this technique work really well for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but most of which is that I've seen cases where people have set up a number of accounts which the amounts might seem relatively small in terms of what they're opened with, but when you put them together, you can have a sizable pool of capital with which to work. I mean, I saw one example of a friend of mine here who put together 5 different people, $5,000 IRA accounts, and did a single note where they all came out pretty well at the end. So it is possible. So these are the conversations we love to have with people. But yes?
I just want a quick question. On the bottom it says promotion first.
Ignore that. Come to me.
I'm a detail person.
I know. I saw it too. I was hoping that print would be smaller. It's good. Hey, you can come to me if I'm the only Steve that works here, so I'm never hard to find. All right. All right. And then this weekend, I've talked to 1 or 2 people about this tonight. Quest Expo is this weekend. It starts Friday. Our featured speaker is going to be Emmett Smith. Somebody needs to tell me who he is. Ashley, do you know? Oh, okay. Hopefully we can tamp down this volume because we're getting all kinds of responses to that. Anyway, our featured speaker is Emmett Smith. He will be there on the first day to kick us off. Interestingly enough, first of all, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I am a big Emmett Smith fan because he truly was a great player. But he's had a really great career post-football. And if you've ever heard him speak or talk about like what he's done and how he's conducted himself with his finances and his career, it's pretty impressive. It's you wish more stories were like that because too many are not. But anyway, Expo is going to be 3 days. It's not only Emmett, but it's speakers from around the country, variety of topics, everything that you can think of in the realm of alternative assets is going to be covered at this real estate conference. Everything from, again, flips, Airbnbs, syndications, tax liens, all kinds of lending, crypto, which is, again, a new area that we've gotten into. All those things will be covered. Anything that a alternative asset investor is looking for is going to be covered there. So it's not too late. And again, reach out to me. I can still get you a discount on tickets if you are still interested. So yeah, keep it in mind. It's not too late. Anyway, if there is more that we can do to help myself directly or any of my coworkers, the QR code that you see on there will actually access the IRA specialist calendar. It will allow you to block out some time. I would say 30 minutes. We can walk you through everything. Any questions that you may have about any of the things that are coming up, or if there's any way we can help. You can also just get us through our website, through our email, through the chat, or just pick up the phone and call. All right, thank you. Sales pitch is over. Now I'm going to turn it over to, again, one of our good friends, Eric Mattingly from DMI. You know, I don't think anybody can talk better about Eric than Eric. So I'm going to let him take over. And yeah, don't let that get too far away.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Eric.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me here, and just want to thank Quest IRA. We're really excited to have an opportunity to be back doing live events. I've known the owners of Quest for many, many years, and we used to actually office right across the pond from this location here, and I've done a lot of events with them, and so really glad to be able to come back. So we're going to be talking a little bit tonight about investing in multifamily, and not so much about specific deals, but the reasons why you should consider multifamily as an investment option. I've been a professional investor for many, many years and have invested in many, many different types of things inside and outside of my IRA. There's some really interesting and cool strategies you can do with your IRA. So, based on what your goals and objectives are, and depending upon where you have your capital positioned and what you're trying to accomplish, will really dictate what makes the most sense as far as how to invest, where to invest, and that type of thing. So just a little bit of background about me. It's weird. So I'm the president and founder of DMI Holdings. We're a private equity company, just kind of a small shop, and we've done a lot of transactions. Been investing for a little over 20 years professionally as a full-time occupation. Had an opportunity to speak all over the country with Quest and other places with teaching people a lot of different investment strategies and concepts outside the traditional stock, bonds, and mutual funds. We created a workshop. So for those of you that are interested, there'll be a QR code that you'll see pop up here. You can see it over there. If you join our professional investor network, there's no cost to do that. But you'll also have access to ongoing investment educational information that we put out like this, but on a variety of topics that will really just help you become a more educated investor. An educated investor is a good investor, and you really want to just understand, especially if you're kind of new to alternative asset class investing or utilizing self-directed IRAs, you really want to learn as much as you can from as many different sources as you can. So we put together a workshop called the Wealth Building Strategies. This topic we're doing here is one of those topics. Been involved in a little over 100 private placement offerings. So my expertise is really in syndications and project development and organizing investment transactions that we typically are doing in partnership with other investors. A little over $1.5 billion from 2008 to present. Personally, multifamily only. I've personally invested in 34 multifamily projects. We're typically, multifamily is anything more than 2 units. So you have residential multifamily and you have commercial multifamily. So 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit, that's residential multifamily. Lenders and buyers and sellers, they kind of view that like a residential home. You get over 4 units and the lenders, buyers, and sellers start looking more at the revenue and income, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We focus primarily on properties that are generally 100 units or greater for the kinds of projects that we like to invest in. And I've invested both as a passive investor, inside and outside my IRA, in multifamily specifically, as well as other things, as well as being an active investor. And as I said, my expertise is in private capital and forming strategic partnerships. And then also my passion is, I've been in martial arts all my life. I was in the USA Martial Arts Hall of Fame, and all of my kids do martial arts. And so that's what I enjoy doing just on a personal basis. Also, I want to introduce, I thought I had a slide with my partner on here, but Leon, can you raise your hand back here? So in the back, this good-looking gentleman back here, it's my partner, Leon Chasteen. He's co-owner of DMI. Leon is, I'm a city boy. He's you guys hunt and fish. You're going to get along really good with Leon. You guys like to go out to bars and nightclubs, then come talk to me. So I don't do that much anymore. But anyways, so what we're going to cover here today is, and I'm going to try to go through this kind of a relatively good clip. Hopefully we'll be done in about 25 minutes. I want to allow some time for Q&A, and then we also want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to network and be able to mingle and talk to one another as well. So we're going to be talking about group purchasing, the ability to leverage operational efficiencies with multifamily over other types of real estate, a concept called forced appreciation, return, passive income, tax advantages, above market returns, hedging against inflation, and then also these kinds of investments are obviously why you're here, self-directed IRA qualified. I do want to just put in a plug, by the way, for Quest. I saw that there was a bunch of new people here. I can't say I'm a Quest client. I feel like I'm at an AA meeting. My name's Eric Mattingly. I'm a Quest client. You know, I've been a Quest client for many, many years. But to be honest with you, because of the industry that we're in, you know, for our investors, we'll actually help them do all their paperwork and fill out everything, especially if you're new to it. It gets a little confusing to make sure your paperwork is submitted. Quest IRA is great. I mean, we have worked with every single custodian out there, a self-directed IRA custodian, because if we have an investor that has a self-directed IRA, they might be with another custodian. And there is a distinct difference in the way that the customers, you guys that are Quest clients, me being a Quest client, with regard to how you're able to efficiently fund your investments, the way that you're treated, the way that you're helped. I mean, it's truly like a big extended family. I mean, I've just loved working with them, and it's just been great. And we generally will take people that are with custodians that we know aren't that great, and that you have a lot of trouble trying to, you know, help them fund their investment and try to steer them to Quest. And then those investors that have not used a self-directed IRA, didn't even know they could use their IRAs to invest in things outside of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds and things like that, we'll help them set up do all their account paperwork for them, because we just really are really pleased with the way they've handled all of our investors. So I'm just telling you guys, if not all self-directed IRA custodians are built the same. And I can tell you right now, Quest stands head and shoulders above any of the ones that we've worked with. That's why I'm a Quest client myself, and so is everybody that is in our office. Yeah, I didn't even get paid for that. Oh, sorry. So just a little bit about group purchasing. You know, unlike single family, doing 100+ unit multifamily projects, the largest property we did was 466 units right around the corner from here on Arapahoe and Preston, called Enclave at Prestonwood. That particular deal is one that I actually personally invested in inside of my IRA. That one was a home run. I made over a 7-year period of time. I got all my money back in about 3 years. And then by the time we sold it, and so at that point, I continued getting cash flow. And then I still maintained my ownership. There's not a lot of investments that you can do that you can put your money in, get your money back out, and still own the investment. You can't do that with a stock fund or a mutual fund. You can't do that with a lot of real estate asset classes either. So at any rate, multifamily is capital intensive. It's not something that you can do by yourself. If you don't like working with other people and having partners, do not invest in multifamily, because that's what multifamily is all about. So group purchasing is just really being able to bring people together and put capital together from a variety of different people. When you do a multifamily transaction, whether you're the lead investor or you're the limited partner, the passive investor, the lead investors, also known as the sponsor group, if you're not familiar with the term, identify the property, conduct all the due diligence, work with the third-party property management, act as the asset manager, managing the property management company. You can't just be hands-free and expect things to work out, as well as, most importantly, going to guarantee any loans. So you're not going to do a 100-apartment complex with all cash. Not going to happen. Your return would be significantly diluted. So you get the ability to leverage your return by having bank financing, but you don't have to be the one that guarantees the bank financing. These loans on an acquisition are non-recourse. However, construction projects, generally recourse loan. And then the sponsor group will do all those guarantees. Then the sponsors on the project are considered the general partners, or the GPs, you'll hear them called, and are responsible for overseeing the operations of the property and so on. And then the passive investors are limited partners, and you're considered LPs that purchase a fractional ownership in the property and have no debt liability, no management or operational responsibility. So on a multifamily transaction, the limited partners, really, you're a capital investor, and it's the sponsor's job to report to you, keep you informed, let you know what's going on, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. And that's really it. Your responsibility is to do nothing more than do your homework in advance of doing the investment, get reported to, and sit back and relax. So it's truly a passive position. Even though I personally invest in all of the projects that we do, passively, I'm also actively involved. So I'm really not totally passive, but I do put my capital in, and they're the same terms.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Very fast. When you talk about the GP, I just want to be clear. You're using GP as something that's not necessarily put money in. They're like more or less like a coordinator or facilitator of
Yeah.
money that's being brought in.
That's correct. Yeah. So
How is that? I'm a newbie.
no, that's okay.
How does that work with, like, how are they compensated for all that work that they do? Or what's the role they play? How would they be compensated for the work they do?
Yeah. So for one, and I'll get into a little bit of that, but for one, the sponsors are going to get a carried interest in the deal. There's also, they're going to be asset managing. They would receive an asset management fee. Just like a broker's commission, when you close on a property, there's generally some type of an acquisition fee. And then when you sell the property, provided you meet certain benchmarks, there would also be a disposition fee similar to a broker's commission. But the main reason that a general partner is going to go through all the headache to go find the deal, oversee the deal, is because they're an owner in the deal, and they're going to be an equity split. Whether they invest, and a general partner is not. You're an ownership split. So the profits that are generated off the project, the limited partners aren't going to get 100% of those. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an investment opportunity, right? So, and these terms on every deal is going to be slightly different. And there's a lot of different ways to break that up. But let's just say, for example, it's a 75-25 split. The limited partners that are putting up the capital will receive 75% of all the financial benefits. And then the general partners would receive 25% of the financial benefits, regardless of whether they invested capital or not. So in my case, so that's the reason to do it.
General partner could be something that's not necessarily money.
Correct, but they are.
Like split equity because
Yeah.
found the property.
Yeah, and you're guaranteeing the loans. Correct.
And it's with the return. That
Mhm.
GP, I'm just trying to understand the term.
No, that's okay. And the general partners, that's okay. No, great question. The general partner, there's no dumb questions. Please feel free to ask. The general partners are also going to, let's say we're doing a project right now. It's $30-something million, $22 million, $33 million, $22 million loan. So the limited partners do not sign on the loan. If you go to a single family transaction and there's a loan, you're the guarantor. You see what I'm saying? Whereas here, and not to mention, you have to qualify. So in some cases, you need more than one loan signer. So like on this particular property, you have to have your financial statement has to warrant the bank being willing to let you sign on a $22 million loan. And so in the case of this particular property that we're working on right now, it's myself and one other guy are the loan guarantors, and the limited partners have no debt liability or responsibility. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, I think, yes. And it answered a lot more than what I.
And if you have more questions, again, we'll be hanging out here and we'll answer additional questions. But feel free to ask. No problem. The other benefit is the ability to leverage. This has to do with the bank financing. And so if you don't use bank financing, your returns are going to be pretty low. So the bank financing allows the investors to benefit from a leveraged return without the guaranteeing of a loan. So that's one of the biggest benefits. So in most cases, buying existing multifamily on an acquisition where you're buying an existing property, the loan that the general partners are guaranteeing, those are generally what's called non-recourse loans. That means that they don't show up on your financial statement as a liability. On a construction project, it's generally a recourse loan until the project is built. And so that at that time would show up on a general partner's financial statement as a liability and would affect the amount of loans. Like right now, I'm a guarantor and probably $60 million of non-recourse financing on multifamily. And so you're not limited with how many loans, but if there were recourse, you would be limited and you have really strong liability to that. Oh, it's like, man, is my phone going on? General partners act as the loan guarantors, and then the passive investors get the benefit, like I said, of the leverage return without the guarantees. And then the return on investment, as I was saying, is just going to be significantly higher because your part of your total project cost is being covered by bank financing. The next, and one of the more important things, if you compare this to single family, is operational efficiency. So you have what's called economies of scale on multifamily that you do not have on single family. Who in here owns or has owned any single family rentals? Anybody keep your hands up? Anybody own more than 10 single family rentals? Keep your hand up. Okay, more than 20 single family rentals. Okay, well, so if you imagine, so I have as well. I don't have any single family rentals other than Airbnb I'm invested in as a passive investor. But with multifamily, imagine having 100 single family homes all over the place. Like trying to keep your arms around that is a nightmare. But with a multifamily project, you actually want more units. It's not to say we won't do something less than 100 units, but I say probably the lowest that we go is about 75 units and up. And so just to kind of give you an example, on a multifamily property, you have on-site professional management. Single family property management is off-site. And you also have on-staff property manager, leasing staff, and maintenance crew right there on site. And if the reason for doing 100 plus units or around 100 units or greater is because you're going to have the same number of staff there, whether it's 50 units, 35 units, 100 units, or 150 units. So you get kind of more bang for your cost, more bang for your buck on running the investment with around that 100 unit or greater range. So the general partner is going to act as the asset manager. A lot of problems that some multifamily operators get into is they're out of state, they hire third-party management, and they just expect everything to go according to plan, and they're not actively involved. So it's also important that the sponsors are acting as the asset managers that manage the property management companies, and that will also allow that operator and investors that are interested in investing to be able to scale up and have multiple investment opportunities, because you're really dealing with the company that's overseeing the direct staff, and you're able to go through and analyze, however many properties you have with that particular property management group, and it just makes it more efficient. And so your best economies of scale, as we said, was a little over 100 units. This is an important slide, and I did put a little notation here. And this is one of the main reasons I personally invest in multifamily, and why a lot of our investors like multifamily, is that you have the ability to control the value that you don't have that kind of luxury with a single family home, unless you're doing like a fix and flip where you bought a house, you know, totally distressed, you invested money into it, and then there's still some margin, and then you can sell it, but you're not really creating the value of the sale price. The sale price was kind of already dictated when you bought it. You can't make your sales price go up. The market just dictates the value of a single family home. With multifamily, that's not the case. So I'll just kind of go through this. Your value of your multifamily property, it can increase by either reducing expenses or increasing income. So I'm just going to give you an example, and this is actually on a live property. And also, if any of you guys want this presentation, if you just email us, we'll send it to you. So you can have this whole presentation. We already have it recorded, and you will get the slide deck. So if there's anything in here that you feel like you missed, we're happy to give this to you. So this is on an actual deal we did here in Dallas called Casa de Loma. We still own it. We're going into our second year. So if you reduce the water bill by $25,000 a year, which is actually not hard to do, I'm not going to go into all the nuances of how we do some of this stuff, but this is pretty standard. There's about 10 to 15 different things you can do to either reduce expenses or increase your income, other than just raising rental rates, okay? So today is not the time to kind of go through all of those, but we're just going to show you an example of a few and how that actually affected the value of this property and how quickly you can change the value. And we're just going to use a 5% cap rate. I'm not going to go into lengthy conversations on cap rates, but I did just put a definition here. If you're not familiar with cap rate, is basically taking the net operating income, you take your calculated by dividing the property's net operating income by from its property asset value. So as an example, if you have $500,000 of net operating income and you have a $10 million property that you purchased, that cap rate would be 5%. Does that make sense? Yes, sir. That's annual. Yeah, annual. And then another example, it's another way to look at when you buy a property. If you were to pay all cash $10 million, what kind of return would I get on an all cash basis? Because that takes financing out of the picture. So if I was making $500,000 on a $10 million investment, that would be a 5% return on my investment. Does that make sense? Okay.
So when you look at cap rate, what is the retail cap rate that you want? I guess is it
that is a loaded question that there's no standard answer for that.
Okay.
Yeah, there is just no standard answer for that. Yes, sir.
Just to kind of summarize in a simple way, on single family properties, the maximum value is constrained by other similar properties in the area.
Correct.
On multi-level, most of that property is driven purely by how much profit you can make on it.
Correct.
The more you can increase the revenue, the lower you can increase the
Or reduce your expenses.
increases the value, increases the income, therefore increases the property value.
Correct.
Regardless of anything else around it.
Correct.
It's based on the income instead of.
Correct. That's 100% correct. Yeah. So this is a live example of what we actually have done on this property so far. So, and then the value is based on what cap rate, when it is time to sell, is going to dictate how much you make. But I'm going to show you a couple of examples of that. So in this case, we're able to reduce the water bill by $25,000 a year by installing a water conservation program, which we do on every single property. The covered parking, they were charging for covered parking, but they were 100% full. That means you're not charging enough. So if you don't have any empty ones, then you're charging too little. That's why they're all sold out. So we just increased them all by $10 a month. So by doing that, by dropping the water bill by $25,000 at a 5% cap rate, we increased the value on that property by that one thing by $500,000. Parking, $10 on 50 covered parking spots, increased our value by $120,000. Oops. My bad. Okay. Then when you're doing an acquisition, a value add acquisition versus a development deal, you're buying properties that are not charging what the sub-market is charging. Does that make sense? So you're not trying to buy a property that is charging maximum rents and then just trying to increase them. You want to buy a property that's kind of mom and pop run. They're not charging the rents that they're getting in the submarket. Occupancy rates are really high because they're charging too little. You don't want to be 100% occupied. You want to be 92, 93% occupied. And then you want to just bring your rents up to what the market is showing. That generally is going to occur over about a 24-month period of time. So you bump the rents up $100 a month on a 100-unit property. That's $120,000 a year. That increases the property's value by $2.4 million. The actual submarket rents that we're pushing towards are actually $200 a month for what we could be charging, but we're just going into our second year. And then also upgraded units, which we do on about half of these units. We can charge an extra $150 a month, and that bumps the value by $1.8 million. So just these 4 things, there's other things that we've done, but these are the ones, especially the rent bumps here is where you make the biggest forced appreciation. But if you just look at a variety of different cap rates by just these 4 items that I'm just illustrating here, remember, the higher the cap rate, the lower the value increase. So the lower the cap rate, the higher the value. Yes, sir.
You typically buy, like, purchase a property that's say a class C, D, and then
No D's. Yeah, good question. C's and B's.
and then move up to either A's and B's.
Yeah, you're bringing them, you're rehabbing them, you're making them current. You kind of just you get the quality of the property up. Correct. Yep, that's what a value add. So at a 6 cap, we would have bumped the value by $4 million. At a 5 cap, 4.8, and if we were able to get a 4 cap, that's $6 million. So this will take us to our next slide, which is that multifamily has return of capital events that can occur while you're still owning the property. So one of the unique benefits of multifamily is being able to get up to 100% of your original investment back out and still own the property, still have cash flow. If you did it outside of an IRA, you would still have tax advantages. So just as an example, after reducing expenses and increasing the income, as we just discussed, within generally 2 to 3 years. So this property that we just had, we're still kind of renovating all the tenants, cycling through all the leases and pushing all of our rents up. And probably within another, 6 months or so, depending upon where interest rates are, will dictate at that point. We would probably look at refinancing that property. And when we do that, you generally are going to want to get about 25 to 75% of your original invested capital out at the time you do your first refinance. You can do this process about every 2 to 3 years as your income continues to increase. And then at the most multifamily properties, you're going to have like a 5 to 6 year business plan, meaning you're planning on holding it for 5 to 6 years. Our objective is to be able to get the investor's capital out in 5 or 6 years. That can either come from refinance or supplemental loans, or can come from a sale. So if investors, for example, in the property were 5 years in and we go, okay, look, here's where our value is now, and we can either sell it or we can go and refinance it. So if investors still had capital in it, we could go and do another supplemental loan or a refi, depending upon the kind of financing you're in when you start off, and be able to pull the remaining amount of investor capital out and still hold the investment. That's exactly what we did with this property over here on Preston and Arapahoe. It's called Enclave at Prestonwood. I held that inside my Quest IRA. I forgot what I invested. It was probably like $75,000. But after 3 years, we were able to basically get all of our cash out, still continue to get cash flow, and then sold it, and then held it longer than the 5 or 6 year period of time, which allowed us to continue pushing income, created a larger value, and it was a home run because we held it longer than we originally planned to. Yes, sir.
So in the event that we not sell the property, but refinance out, would I as an investor keep my investment in the property?
Correct. No, you would keep your ownership in the property. Yeah, that's the benefit, right? So, there's not a lot of investments where you can do that, where, at a certain period of time, you could pull your capital out, but not lose ownership of the investment and then recirculate that money and go invest it elsewhere into other things. So once you've gotten 100% of your, and we've done this many times on a number of properties where we held it beyond the 5 to 6 year period of time. And once you've gotten 100% of your money back, your return on investment at that point is infinite because you have no investment of cash anymore. Now, not to mention if it's inside of an IRA, there's the additional benefit of that. Anyways, just to move on, don't want to long talk that. So obviously, there's an income feature to multifamily, just depending upon whether it's an acquisition or a development deal, is generally going to dictate about how long it takes before there's generally cash flow. So income from multifamily is passive. Passive income distributions on an acquisition are generally within 3 to 9 months. Most of these properties we're buying are cash flow positive, but you're inheriting the cash flow that's there when you buy them. And then you start making some adjustments and doing some of the things we just showed you on the previous slides, and your cash flow will start to go up. And we generally like to reserve all the cash just to make sure that you don't run into anything unexpected. You got enough reserves and so on. And then we start distributions. And on a development project, you have to build it and then lease it, and then you can start distribution. So it's generally going to be a little bit longer before you see income off of a development project. And kind of going back to strategy, investment strategy, you have to kind of dictate or determine what are you trying to accomplish. So if you're a retired person, and whether you're inside or outside of an IRA, but let's say you need cash flow now because you're retired and you want income as quickly as you can on investments, well then, if that's the case, then investing in a development deal may not be suitable for you. Does that make sense? And so if you are investing in an IRA and you don't have any intention on using into the cash, hey, it's okay if you wait 18 to 24 months because your overall returns will generally wind up being around the same. It's just how long it takes to receive cash flow. That's really the only difference. Year one cash flow is generally lower because, again, on an acquisition, you're inheriting the poorly managed property from the previous owner, and then you have to go in and make these adjustments to get your cash flow up. And so by reducing expenses, increasing rents, adding additional income, your cash flow then goes up each year. Tax advantages. There are tax advantages. So for me, I've invested in multifamily inside of my IRA and outside of my IRA. And there's significant tax advantages if you're investing outside of your IRA. If you're investing inside of an IRA, you have a tax advantage vehicle. There's questions people have about unrelated business income tax. And so I think I invested in this property over here, maybe like $75,000. When it was all said and done, I got like, 300 grand back. It was a 400% return on my money. Did I get taxed with unrelated business income tax in my IRA? Yeah, but I really didn't care because I made such a nice return on my money. I really couldn't care less. Now I have all that cash in my IRA, and I've already turned around and put that money back out there to work again. So if I got to pay a little bit of tax, I got to pay a little bit of tax. But if you have questions regarding that, it's going to be based on your own personal tax situation. You need to consult with your own CPA and get advice on your situation as it relates to unrelated business income tax, because you may have other things that you've done and invested in that can offset those types of things. So it's not just a cut and dry, everybody winds up paying it. You might get taxed, but you might not wind up owing anything. Does that make sense? If you're not familiar with unrelated business income tax, I would direct you to the Quest IRA website, and you go and there's some video resources there. And Quincy Long, one of the owners of Quest, who is a CPA, explains it in detail and all of the different nuances about it. And it's very, very good. I actually just watched it the other day just to kind of learn a little bit more. There's a lot of really good educational information on the Quest IRA website, and I suggest you take advantage of that. They do a good job of keeping their investors informed. So you can substantially reduce your tax liability. There's what's called cost segregation and bonus depreciation, which speeds up the ability to take deductions, and the income on the property is taxed as passive. And again, this is if it's outside of an IRA. And then you get also ongoing annual depreciation deductions. Sales proceeds are long-term. You're generally not going to fix and flip a 100-unit apartment complex. And if you do, it's generally going to be longer than 365 days. And then loan proceed distributions are not taxable at the time they're received. And then at the end of the year, Schedule K1. So if you invested in an IRA, that's going to go to your Quest IRA custodian, and they're produced the K1 to Quest. And then also just the ability to get above market returns. of what is above market return, the definition is different to everybody. You know, somebody says, well, above market return to me is 50%. Okay, you're not generally going to get a 50% return per year on a multifamily deal. For us, we define above market returns as 10% or greater. So there's not a lot of investments where you can relatively consistently get greater than a 10% rate of return without a lot of the volatility that you normally see in the market. And so it's a great way to be able to generate, you know, in excess of 10% per year when it's all said and done. So with a multifamily, part of your investments coming from cash flow, and generally that'll maybe start around 4% or so. It could be a little more, just depends. And then will escalate up over time. So part of your return is income generated. And then there's also capital events, which we discussed. And then when you go and sell, there's capital gain on sale. So that's kind of what comprises those returns. And when you add all those things up, if you're beating a 10% return, that's pretty good. Our objective is to double our money in 5 to 6 years as an investor. But if we got only 10% return, I'm happy with that personally. Between cash flow gain on sale, that's kind of the objective. And then the last thing here is just hedge against inflation. So inflation hasn't been too horrible, but man, over the last 12, 18 months, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was around 9% inflation or something like that. So literally if you're, and I like everybody's feeling it, right? Just to buy things in general costs more. Food, cars, whatever. And so like literally if you're sitting in cash, you're losing 9% a year on your money because you're losing that purchasing power. So again, multifamily is considered a great hedge against inflation because of some of the same things we just discussed on the previous slide, and allowing you to be able to, you know, meet or exceed whatever the inflation rate is. And again, if I'm going through this quick, guys, there's a recorded version of this that we'll give you, and also the slide deck. So we will be happy to share that with you. And the last thing is it's self-directed. I'm just going to show you a couple of case studies after this, then we'll do Q&A. But you can do multifamily investing, just like a lot of the things you guys are learning here at Quest, inside of any kind of qualified plan, and all of them can be self-directed through Quest. Traditional IRAs, Roths, 401k, 401k Roth. If you have a business, KEO plans, SEPs, HSAs, etc. Me, I just personally use a Roth IRA, but you can set up these and other types of plans that Quest can help educate you on to be able to do these kinds of investments as well as other kinds of investments that you may be interested in. I'm just going to show you one case study. I've got 3 of each. So when you guys get the slide deck, it'll have them. Also, this QR code, if you want to scan that, it's also over there on our banner, but it'll take you to our investor portal. You can request access, and then you guys will be able to see any of the investment opportunities that we have, as well as you will wind up receiving the educational information we put out to help with topics like this. So we're going to show you one that's a value add acquisition. There's 3 of them on here, but I'm just going to go over one of them just to give you an example. And then I'm going to show you one development project. So on a acquisition, this is a project here called Clearbrook Village. In Memphis, Tennessee is 144 units. And not to kind of long talk this thing, but you know, it was purchased in September 2018. Bought it for $3.3 million. Over a 3-year period of time, the value has increased by doing some of the things that I just shared with you guys previously on the forced depreciation. And then that property, instead of being refinanced, it was sold, and investors made a 114% return on their money in a 3-year period of time. So that was pretty good. There's a couple others on here. I'm going to skip over these just because of time. I want to allow time for Q&A and networking. And then I'll show you one development deal. This is another group that we work with that does really good. I'll give you kind of a lower case study here just to kind of give you an idea. So here's one. These are all done in sort of the greater DFW metropolitan area, all in Texas. This one is in Palestine. Secondary, underserved tertiary markets that are screaming for additional housing. And so this one's 136 units ground up and acquired in 2020. and then sold in November 2021. So this is kind of a short-term, relatively short-term, but overall investors on this particular property made an average of 14% per year. And then with that, I'm going to just leave this final slide up and just let you know, and then we'll take some questions here. There's a couple of things that we passed out. Some of you guys met Brad back there. Brad is our investor relations manager. He was supposed to bring this one other item, so I just want to let you know he dropped the ball on that if y'all want to have a word with him about that after class. But so this is just a little bit of information on DMI. It's also got the QR code, and again, you can request access. And then this other one is a fund that we're about to open. And so there's kind of two ways you can invest in multifamily. You are going to invest as a direct investor in a single asset LLC, where you invest in the LLC, and that LLC is going to take ownership of this property and you own your pro rata share. So that's a direct investor. You also can invest through a fund model. So dependent upon your objectives and how much capital you have to work with, we generally tell people, if you're going to invest direct, then you want to be able to invest in over, call it a 12-month period of time or so. This year, I think we will, at the end of this year, we'll have done about 6 projects this year. So our goal is 3 to 6 quality projects a year. We can't really dictate how many we do, and it just depends on kind of what the opportunities are that are out there. But you would want to be able to invest in, maybe 3 or 4 properties or whatever amount is comfortable for you. But if you want to do a single investment and you want to have your money diversified over a number of properties, then it makes sense to look at being a fund investor. And so real estate opportunity fund, REOF just means real estate opportunity fund. Real estate opportunity fund gives you the opportunity to be able to put an investment in, whether it be inside or outside of an IRA, and then those monies are then going to be invested in the kinds of properties that we just got done going over here. These are like the kinds of properties that we invest in and the groups that we invest with. And so a minimum of 2 properties, and we might wind up with 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 inside of the fund. So it just kind of gives you some diversity without having to invest in a number of different things. Completely up to you. And with that, open it up for a few questions, and we want to spend time for networking so Steve doesn't get mad at me. Questions? Yes, sir.
Obviously, that's in one of your funds, anyone can do that. But if I'm actually, not because I got $1 million of liquidity, but I can invest in directly into multifamily. What about others who don't have $1 million of liquidity, et cetera?
Yeah, no, it's fine. We can work with both accredited and non-accredited investors. So it just depends. Most of our projects have a minimum $100,000 minimum investment, but that's to the manager's discretion. I mean, our biggest thing is we really want to make sure that the investment is suitable for the investors, regardless of what level that we have. People that have $5,000. We don't have a lot of those, but we have allowed that sometimes. And we have one guy on this one, and unfortunately Brad dropped the ball, or you all have one of these sheets as well. There's an open project called Alston Arms that we're finishing up on. We've already closed on it between myself and Leon and the other sponsors. I mean, we personally have over $3 million of our own money invested, and we have one guy on there that's at $1 million. He's probably going to look like he's going to probably do at least 500,000 or another $1 million. He would be the largest single investor on there, and all the way down. So just kind of the average investments we see are, as a direct investor, like 100 to 250 range. No, you can. The fund is accredited only, actually, because it's a 506C offering. But the direct investing you can do as a non-accredited investor, just because it's a 506B. So it's just the way that the securities filing. So on a 506C offering, and there's a whole nother workshop that we have. Again, if you become part of our professional investor network, one of the trainings that we will provide is understanding private placements and understanding where we talk about this. We also have one that talks about the entity structures for investments, which deal with some of what I'm talking about here, fund investing versus single asset entity. There's a lot of information. We can't obviously cover it all in one time, but you guys will receive those. And we generally are sending something out like one time a week, in addition to like investment opportunities. You guys would actually see those inside of our investor portal. But yeah, we can work with both. Good question. What else? Yes, ma'am.
Earlier, I was going to ask a question. You mentioned that you buy CD properties, but you're saying B and C.
No, we don't buy any Ds. So like a D is, property type, a Class A is kind of brand new to about 10 years old. So a new construction project, they're all Class A. If you go and buy one that's 10 to 20 years old by age, it'd be considered a Class B. But you could take, and you have B minus, B plus, just depends on also demographic, what have you. And then your C's, and a D is usually really old, really run down, and or war zone. So you don't want those. I mean, the amount of work you pretty much, it's kind of like you would almost have to tear it down and rebuild it. It's just a really, really bad property. So we don't do any Class D property. So C's and B's, and then certain Class A's, and the Class A's are mainly new construction. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
So how can somebody that's new into this, like I am, be involved in investing in a multifamily? What would the criteria be for someone like me? I mean, when you said, you talked a little bit about like being able to certain amount of equity or you're going to put so much into it.
It's just based on net worth and liquidity. That's really about it.
What would be your strategy for somebody that's new, that is going to start, start out like not going full, go full force. But
Yeah.
What would it be?
Yeah, you want to, really probably spend one-on-one time talking with either Leon, my partner Leon, or myself, because then it really is all, talking to a group is one thing, talking to somebody on a one-on-one basis is different. And like every one of our investors we know personally. And in fact, our graphics, our printer, the Minix are here, and they've invested with us before, and we are friends with them. So we would just need to kind of understand where you're at and ask questions, and then we're going to recommend, if it's whatever based on your situation, if investing is suitable or if it's not suitable, and if it is, what would make sense as far as what to consider. These are illiquid investments for a period of time, so it has to be money that you're prepared to be sitting there for 3, 4, 5, 6 years or so to be able to get all of your money back out. And so we really just try to find all those things out on a one-on-one basis to really help advise you to make sure that it's something that makes sense for you. I'm going to do this because I promised Steve I would end right on time. I'm a couple minutes early because I do want to allow time for you guys to network. And I think he's got some other, let some of you guys come up here. And also we'll be over here at our table. So if you do have some questions, please come over here and see us. And we'd love to get your information and have an opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
All right. Just
hold
anything
it.
you like, your name and what you got and how they can get in touch with you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Tiffany Ricketts. I am currently looking for funding to start an assisted living facility. So basically it's non-medical and it's residential. So small homes with maybe the caregiver to resident ratio 4-to-1. Based on the big boxes, there's like 12-to-1 caregiver resident ratio. So it's a more intimate feel, better care for our seniors. So also too, it's a great investment because baby boomers are in their 70s right now. So mid 70s, the oldest is probably 74. So in the years to come, there's going to be a lot more needs. The baby boomer period was the largest. So there's millions of baby boomers that are going to need assistance, and the big boxes are just not, they're not sufficient enough to take care of our elders. My dad is 81, so I have a personal, I guess like this is more personal for me in addition to residential homes I've already invested in. So I know the real estate aspect, but ideally there just needs to be more care given to our seniors. I feel like there's a lack of care, and just like once people get a certain age, we kind of just feel like, oh, like we don't pay attention to them anymore. We don't go visit them anymore. We don't go do the things. They still want to live their life, and they want to live it to the fullest towards the end. So I feel very strongly and passionate about the industry in addition to already knowing the real estate. So I'm looking for funding to, you know, get the business loan and get this up and going and do multiple homes. So I have a business card if anyone wants to get more information.
Great. All right. Thank you. All right.
Let me just explain what I do.
Please.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm a private money lender and a private money broker. So with a broker, my broker, I have 135 different funding entities that I can go to, and almost all of them specialize. Some do simple fix and flip, buy and hold type loans. Other ones do commercial, you know, even like office buildings, or my mama lives in one of those nice places, by the way. Yeah, so I'm a complete fan, but you know, I could conceivably get a loan for the multifamily, you know, so there's really no limit. Technically, they tell me I can't broker a loan more than $2 million, but I'm currently in the process of an $18 million new build loan. So they're not turning down the business. So I want to give you my card. And so if you need funding for your investments, give me a shot. You know, I'm honest, I'm ethical, I won't mislead. I'm not going to keep a, you know, ace up my sleeve. I'll tell you exactly what the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, everything. And just, it's all up front. The deal either makes sense for you and for my funding company and for me, or it doesn't. And for the rehab guy, it makes sense for everybody, or we don't do the deal. That's another thing with going with a funding company, because it's another way to have another set of eyes on your deal, because they won't fund it unless you're going to make a profit. So if they turn you down for funding, that's because you're either paying too much for it or you're trying to fix it up too much for that particular neighborhood. And by the way, it's nationwide. So I can broker nationwide. So, okay, thanks.
All right. Great. Thanks. Anyone else? See, look at it. We're already making connections here. This is what it's all about. Anyone else want to just say who you are or what you're looking for? Okay, great.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will. I am the CEO and owner-operator of J. Lou Trucking. I'm a little different in real estate and everything, but I'm in the $600 billion industry. I just signed a contract with JB Hunt, the #1 transport in DFW, #4 in the nation. I have a contract with them with intermodal and local freight. So I'm looking for an opportunity, you know, for someone to, you know, take a look at it and see what I got going. I'm trying to get more equipment because I have this contract now with them. I just signed 3 weeks ago, so I'm kind of bogged down. So I'm just right now looking just for opportunity. Thank you.
All right. That's unique. That's not one I come across very often.
So I need clarity on what exactly are you looking for?
I'm looking for investment.
Investments for, I know JB Hunt.
Yes,
Everyone knows JB Hunt.
For the equipment.
I'm trying to get another truck and trailer. Right now, I signed with them, like I said, the contract with them. So those guys are putting me in position, and I'm a driver, and I do business. So right now, I'm getting access, but I need more equipment.
So this sounds like it could be an opportunity for lending in some form.
Maybe.
Yeah. So that would probably be no, that's that's great. But again, it's kind of a unique thing. I'm telling you, some of the lending that I've come across is pretty unique in many ways. And some of the collateralization. I think it was Nathan who told me this one, Eric, that somebody uses ammunition as collateral for loans that they make through Quest. So yeah. Yes. All right. Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys again for coming. It's been a great night, great information, great networking. We're going to be here a little longer. For those of you online, you're going to leave us shortly, but we'll be here for about 20 more minutes, and then we will be kicking you out promptly at 8:30. Okay. We have to close the office. So, but hey, I do want to also say thank you for coming. We hope you enjoyed everything this evening, especially the food. There's plenty. We'll even make to-go plates for you if you like. Anyway, we'll be here a little longer until we have to turn out the lights and close the door. But oh, everyone should be in Houston this weekend. Yes, to meet this. Contact me. I'll get you the discount, and you can meet. What was his name? Everett Smith. Emmett Smith, the Emmett Smith. Okay. Thank you guys very much. All right.